And we're live on radio in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at WTKA.com, on the Big 1050, on the Big 1050.com. And I'm a bit nervous about this roundtable. So I know we have no Brian today.
It's not exactly a roundtable
to be here, but I'm a bit nervous about giving Craig Ross a forum. A forum like this.
The Craig Ross Hour.
The Craig Ross Hour. Where he has floor. Where Craig Ross has the floor to himself. Oh my goodness. What will he do? Someone said, preach Craig. Oh my God. They decided to give Craig a show.
It's a scary thought, and I was in search.
Craig Ross has been platformed.
On Tuesday I had eye surgery over at Kellogg, and I want to shout out my surgeon, who's awesome, Angela Vercade, because I'm seeing right now the best I've seen since I was 7 years old, which means more than 70 years. So anyway, I haven't prepared anything, of course, but let me talk about Rudolph Virchow, who I've wanted to talk about a lot. And how it gets on a Michigan football show, I don't know, but it seems kind of salient to me. Who is Rudolph Virchow? He was a genius from the 1860s, back during the period of Bismarck and Kaiser Wilhelm, I don't know, the first or second. And he was the father of cell theory. He was the first one who believed in this construct of cells. And he was a big deal. He was a professor someplace. And so he was also kind of a revolutionary. Now, he was at odds with Marx, but he believed in this he was a very egalitarian guy. And at one point, one of these characters, I don't know, one of these politicians, Bismarck or someone, said, "Hey, we're having a problem with typhus. You're so smart with your stupid cell theory. Why don't you go up there to this place where we're having the problems with typhus and solve our typhus problem?" And he goes, "Okay, I am that smart. I will do that." So he goes there and decides, it's some cell thing in the water, right? You got some bad water here, and it's all these cells. And don't ask me, I'm not a scientist, I'm a dope. And but in any event, so he figures out how to solve the typhus problem, and he becomes a big hero. He's such a big hero that the powers at the time decide, I don't know, let's just let him do his revolutionary stuff. Let's just let him rail on about, the proletariat and the masses, even if he's not talking about any violent revolutions or anything like that. And maybe we'll just shuffle him aside to some second-rate university, in Nowheresville, but we won't kill him. And so that's what they did. Well, then this thing happens. And the point of this is how really smart people can get things really wrong. And one of the great things about Virchow was that he was an anti-racist to the nth. And he believed, like I believe, that there's no such thing as race, that this is a false construct, that you got people, that's a race. Outside of that, yeah, it's all just superficial characteristics that are no different than brown eyes, blue eyes, all the same. People be people. And Virchow believed this way back. Now, he believed this most specifically in the construct, vis-a-vis the construct of Jews and Judaism, even though he wasn't Jewish. But at the time, there was a lot of anti-Semitism, and he said, this is nonsense. These are just people like any other people. But he would have thought the same thing about, any, quote, race. Back then, Judaism was considered a race, right? I'm not a Jew, incidentally. So I got no dog in this particular fight, I guess. So anyway, Virchow is yammering on about no races, and all of a sudden they find the bones. They find some skeletons in some place. They're Dresden or somewhere. They're digging up, they find some bones, and the scientists don't know what it is. Now this was perplexing because the shortcoming that Virchow had was he didn't believe in Darwin. He thought Darwin was an idiot, and did not believe in these evolutionary ideas that Darwin believed in. So when these bones are dug up, Virchow says there'll be a point to this, man.
I'm trying to. Okay, I gotta rush you to the, to
the end. Because it could take days. I know.
Yes.
So the conclusion, in any event. So Virchow, whose students are all Darwinists, younger guys, right? He has students, but he doesn't believe in Darwin. So they dig up these bones. No one knows what the bones are, and he decides. The young students say, this is like, we'll call it Neanderthal man. It was actually a Neanderthal man, of which I have 3% blood, as it turned out, used very high on 23andMe. But in any event, so he says, this isn't a Neanderthal. This is a deformed Cossack, because he just couldn't wrap his head around the construct of Darwinism and the evolution of humans. And to his death, he refused to acknowledge the construct of Neanderthals versus, this deformed Cossack. So in any event, the whole point of this is how very, very smart people can get things very, very wrong. And and even if they're well-intentioned, smart, and I'll Al Borges isn't listening, so Al Borges is obviously what is that?
It's caffeine.
Okay. Al Borges is obviously a brilliant guy. I mean, I've talked to him a lot before. I encouraged you to have him on your show. I mean, the guy sees stuff that, and he's trained in it. He sees it, but he still has his shortcomings. He, for example, thinks time of possession is relevant. In fact, he called me one morning to yell at me to tell me how it's relevant. And he's wrong about that. But even smart people can get stuff wrong, even in areas that they're expert in. And now the whole audience has left you, Sam.
Okay. So I've been doing this a long time, Craig.
Yeah.
I've fancy myself as a guy who really knows how to segue.
Yeah. And
I'm struggling right now. I'm really at a loss of how to bring this all together. Yeah. I'm just going to make a really abrupt segue right now. I mean, I think there's kind of a tie between Neanderthals and Michigan State. There's.
I would say for sure we had what's his name there, Kid Rock.
Yeah. We could maybe kind of do a little something there, but kind of, sort of.
All right.
Michigan State.
Yes.
Running game was beastly.
Especially in the second half, yeah.
In the second half of that game. Some meaningful pivots were made. Some meaningful adjustments were made. Necessary adjustments were made in the run game in reaction to the struggles of the passing game. Now, there's the belief, I think, by some in the fan base, and I'm curious where you fall in this spectrum, Craig. Some believe that this was the thought process going in, that you take the air out of the ball, you try to possess the ball, right? And you just try to run it down their throats. If that's the thought process going in, you try to Penn State it up. That worked for Sharon a couple of years back. And with a freshman quarterback, that's the formula going into it. I think that was the reaction on. I know that was the reaction on the fly, though. But I'm curious what your thought, just your broad brush reaction to.
Well, I mean, to me, the basest amateur, that doesn't make sense. I mean, first of all, Michigan State had been clobbered all year in the pass game. I'm not saying they were great against the run, but they were okay mostly on the year against the run. So why would you look at a team that had been killed in the air all year and that had done at least adequately, let's say, on the ground? Why would you go in saying, we're just going to bubble ball them to death? Now, Michigan did have a lot of cool plays. I mean, they had a couple plays that I can't ever recall, seeing. I mean, and so there's that. But I mean, do you see it that way? Do you see that? No, I think they were shifting on the fly, and that the pass game looked kind of sketchy, and that Bryce looked kind of uncomfortable, and he never to me felt comfortable within the pocket. He always felt like he was flailing or throwing it too soon when he had time, bailing again a little too quickly, perhaps. I mean, I don't know.
So there were definitely, I think, in the first half of that game, I think balance was the plan, and run heavy was the sort of the pivot. And you could see it, I think, in sort of the preponderance of and the shift to one run specifically, and it's a run they call the double slice. So
was that the one with Hoffman and Bredesen on the blocks on the outside where they
correct
sort of like a arc play of some kind? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's a really, I think, fitting term where you have Bredesen come across on what looks like a split zone block,
right,
first, and then Hoffman comes around, and he comes around on sort of, he kind of arcs around,
right,
on a block, kind of around in the alley, and then there is a play off of that, right, where Bredesen comes and he fakes like he's gonna make that split zone block, and he goes around and blocks in the alley, and Hoffman does the same thing. So a bluff of that block, but it's not split zone blocking because they aren't blocking front side, they're blocking the line. They aren't blocking front side, they're blocking backside. So you're looking at it, you're like, that's not split zone. And then you got two guys coming around. It's like, what is that?
I've never seen that play before. Yeah. So, and I don't recall any. I mean, maybe some team has run something like that, but I'd never seen it. And I went back and I watched it a few times. What's going on here? And because it wasn't what we expect. This connects to something that I think you said last week. And I made some noises about Bredesen being a Heisman candidate. That wasn't completely non-serious. I mean, because I think he's as good as anybody I've seen at that position. Now, I mean, you might go back to Kevin Dudley, way back, who was a phenomenal, but Bredesen is the deal. And
he is. So let me clarify something. Yeah. So I was told I was probably giving him a little too much credit.
Yeah.
On that split stretch play where
that's
if a player is lining up in the B gap, he comes and he blocks the 3 tech.
Okay.
If there isn't, then he comes across and he blocks the edge.
Okay.
Saying that he's reading that guy, he's reading where the block is.
Right.
So the line is being read, but someone signals to him if someone's in the B gap. So who that is, you don't want to say who it is signaling him, but it's probably a line call to say, hey, someone's in the B gap, come and get this guy.
Well, that was a remarkable play too, regardless of how it got from point A to point B. I mean, I wasn't sure if Guarnara on that particular play missed the block or if it was a kind of midline, a sort of a midline split zone, or if it was a trap play. I don't know what you'd call it.
It's a split stretch, and like I said, if there's a guy, if you got like a 2-eye, if there's if the 3 tech is in a B, if you got a guy lined up in the B gap, Bredesen is going to come get him.
Okay.
So he can't chase the play. Otherwise, he is regular, split zone or split stretch blocking, and he's going to get that edge guy. So it's not like, they call, hey, some special play where he goes and blocks the 3 tech. They call that in the huddle. That's not how it works. It's strictly based on alignment, and it's a probably a line call. Maybe it's the center or the guard signals him, hey, you got a guy in a B gap, come get him. And that's what he'll do. And so it's it's a way to kind of get the play off. Otherwise, that play might get chased a little easier. That stretch play might get chased a little easier if there's a guy lined up in the B gap. But this play that they ran against Michigan State was something different, something new, and something that they call double slice. So again, Bredesen comes around on what is essentially like split zone blocking, but the front is blocking back, sort of like gap blocking, and then you got Hoffman coming around in the alley, but then they got to play off of that because they ran that double slice one time in the first half, but then after that they scored a touchdown on a double bluff where now Bredesen comes around, and instead of blocking that edge guy, he bluffs like he's going to block him, goes around, and now he's a blocker for Bryce on the edge, and Hoffman comes around and he's a blocker for Bryce on the edge. All right, so now you got Michigan State kind of leaning a little bit, and you got Sharon. He goes in at halftime and says, "Hey, we got to make some tweaks at the break. We got to run the football. We got to try to get Bryce some rhythm." But the key pivot was we're gonna lean into this slice series. They ran a double slice one time in the first half. They ran it 7 times in the second half.
Okay.
And that bluff, they came back with it in the second half. And Michigan State thought they had that bluff squeeze after they're getting bludgeoned with the slice. They hit them with the bluff. And just when they thought they had the bluff played, now they come and they're playing Bryce on the bluff, and he gives it to Haynes going the other way. And Haynes scores a touchdown going the other way when they play Bryce. So it's a double bluff, right? I mean, it's a double bluff, and they think they got him played going that way. And then you got Haynes scoring the touchdown going the other direction. So you got hit up the middle, you got hit going to the left, and they hit you going to the right. Michigan State had no answer for that series of runs. That's how you get a formula for the most rush yards since, what did you say, Ira, 1994? That it was
1994.
They didn't just overpower them; they out schemed them in the run game. I don't think they would get that if it was just blowing them off the ball with no semblance of a passing game. It was some scheme dominance in that game too. It's just you just don't get it. It doesn't get that kind of attention because they just didn't perform in the pass game like you wanted them to perform, and that's where all the attention has been.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it was brilliant, and you have to give the Chip and the offensive staff, major marks for this. Because it was something that I hadn't quite seen or don't recall ever seeing. But during the game and after the game, I got emails and saying that, I don't understand why Michigan is just pounding it into the line, which almost made me want, feel like my head was going to explode. I said, it isn't, what was the phrase I got? I can't remember. Line plunges. Why are they just running all these line plunges? And it shows you those sort of disconnect, I think, between the casual fans, at least, and people who are trying to pay attention to the game, which I don't claim is me, but I do claim is others, and and believe that there's a lot of variation in run games that are quite profound. That it isn't just running inside and running outside, which is what a lot of fans seem to think. And
it couldn't be because I don't think that they, even as challenged as I think Michigan State was as a run defense, I think that they were somewhat effective in the first half against Michigan. But when Michigan went to their when they went to 13 personnel, Michigan State was somewhat predictable in their defensive alignment, what they were giving them, and I think that gave Michigan some cues and how they could attack them. The problem was, and this is, I think fans are right to be concerned but not panicked. I think concern is the right thing when you see the performance against Washington and you think, all right, passing game took a step forward. And then you see the performance against Michigan State and you're like, what happened? And well,
especially where the Washington defense looks pretty good and the Michigan State defense looks strictly neat ball.
Yeah.
I understand why people would say, what's going on?
Yeah, to me, I first start with the common thread, the things that Bryce can execute and should be able to execute against both teams. His go-to plays, and you start with RPOs, and that's a comfort zone for him. We look at those stats in every game, and that those were available, and that was one of the glaring questions that we got. Well, why aren't they throwing? And one fan said, they didn't give him any wide receiver screens, and they were talking about bubbles. They threw wide receiver screens, and Michigan State actually did a good job of stopping. But the bubbles, they did call what we call run controls in the game, and he just didn't throw them. There were 16 RPOs in the game. He threw one. And that was just a sign that the comfort level just wasn't there, because he is an excellent RPO guy.
Yeah.
As I don't think that's a stretch to say.
So you think, like I think, that the decision to go heavy and run was just a feeling that Bryce lacked comfort in this game? Because that's kind of what I felt as the game.
That's exactly what I think.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I think. I think it got to a point where it's like, man, not really. He's not really feeling it, not really on, can't really get him comfortable, get him in a rhythm with some things that he normally is really proficient at. So let's win the game.
Yeah.
Because there were some highly executable things, some high percentage plays that were left on the field. And it wasn't all just that. I mean, there were some protection things that they weren't quite equipped to deal with. I'll put that more on coaching than him, that nickel pressure. They didn't have him prepared enough to deal with that. So I think that'll be something that if they can come out of this game having him more prepared to deal with nickel pressure, because they're going to see that based on how successful Michigan State was with that.
Well,
they're going to see that moving forward.
I suspect you're going to see a ton of that this week, because what does Purdue have to lose? I mean, if Purdue is smart, they're going to come out and run 4 downs from anywhere on the field. They're going to come out and blitz heavy, and they're a terrible team, and so when you're a bad team, you might as well throw it all out there and try and make the opposition as uncomfortable as possible. I suspect that's what we'll see. I have a question for you. Michigan State would line I think it was a nickel and a safety, or maybe a corner and a safety in single file, which to me is often a clue that the guy closer to the line of scrimmage is coming. Right. And either Bryce or something in the offense happened. Oh, there's Seth. And he can maybe speak to that. Where they had defensive backs lined up single file, and the first guy fires, and there's no protection, and Bryce doesn't seem to be paying any attention to him. Am I wrong about that, or is that?
I think that's a very astute observation, and that's why I say I'm going to put that on coaching, saying that they didn't have him prepare well enough to deal with that pressure scenario. And so I think that can be a meaningful learning, a meaningful lesson to come from this game is, learning where pressure is likely to come from and how to adjust protection to deal with that. That's not to say that they hadn't worked on it before, but obviously not to the degree to where he was able to adjust protection to deal with it. It looks like the answer was just hiding it when he could, when he saw it. But if he can adjust the protection to deal with it, if he can cap it, that would be a more ideal solution. And so maybe that can be something that can come from this because that was available to him. So hopefully that can be an answer. Seth, how you doing?
I overslept.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so here's what we'll do. We will bring Seth back, and on the other side, we will get his take on the game, get some of your questions in the break as well. More on the other side, more MGoBlog Roundtable. We return here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at thebig1050.com.
Clear on the radio.
All right.
I've never done that before. I'm sorry.
Hey, man.
Hey, gave me a chance to pointlessly jibber jabber while Sam went crazy. Giving me the freaking evil eye, like you are even more off the edge than usual.
Oh, Craig had the forum. He had the floor. He used it. He used it.
Even stupid by my own standards.
I'm ready for a bye. We got a bye after this, right? I'm ready for a bye.
Yeah.
Do
we have a bye, or is it Northwestern and then a bye? Bye then Northwestern.
Bye then Northwestern.
Well, Vance seemed to think that Northwestern's a real team. So, so that's interesting. I haven't watched them much.
They beat Purdue 19-0. And Michigan's favored over Purdue by 19.5 right now. So they're that's I mean, if you just want to put it that way. I haven't gotten a look at Northwestern that much. Their defense is always solid. I don't really every single time they get one of these quarterbacks out of the portal, you're just like, that guy? Like, why is that? That's not gonna work for you. And it doesn't.
What did you think about the did you done with doing the defense, Seth?
Yes. Yeah, the defense, I mean, Michigan was fine. We kind of went back towards doing some more of the things that he likes to do, and sometimes it bit them, but it was mostly a team you could get away with it. Michigan State was bad. And I have a metric when I do my charting called HAT, which is like, it started with the 2021 Ohio State, because it was like sometimes the defensive back was completely in the right spot, did everything he possibly could, and Jackson Smith-Njigba was just Jackson Smith-Njigba. And I just had to okay, tip of the hat, 2 points, right?
Right.
So HAT is not like the metric of the other team is just doing something that is so outrageous that you can't really grade the Michigan player. It's just the Michigan State player. So, Roller had a great game. great.
Yeah, rolled her.
Well, his first sack, the guard just gets out of the way. He just, for some reason, he's just like, should I block this man who's running directly at my quarterback? No, I'm going to go over here and block the guy the running back's blocking. So there's a lot of that from Michigan State, and they got some problems there. The other side, I thought Rosie had a really good called a really good game. I was actually pretty impressed by his game plan and how he kind of screwed with the freshman quarterback. And it's not the first time we've seen a freshman quarterback in Michigan State, fall apart a little bit. That's kind of what happens.
Did he come? Did that Rossi guy come with
30
with Jonathan Smith, or was he?
Yeah,
he came with Smith.
Well, he was at Minnesota before.
Okay,
so we actually had him. We looked at his defenses before. I think he was with Rutgers at one point too.
Okay,
he's an interesting guy. He runs a lot of Saban and he runs a lot of D'Antonio. It's kind of a mix.
Back in about 10 seconds, guys. Stand by.
It's very weird to be talking about
on radio in 5, 4, 3.
And we are back, folks, here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTKA, online at the big1050.com. Before we get back to the roundtable, want to let those of you who are in the market for a new vehicle know you should get on board with Brighton Ford. Why? Well, folks, Brighton Ford is where your next adventure begins. Ready to take the wheel of your dream Ford? At Brighton Ford, it's more than just buying a car. It's stepping into a lifestyle of power, performance, and possibility. Feel the thrill. Take it for a spin and drive it home today. Experience the Brighton Ford difference where excitement meets excellence. If you're leasing a car already, make the switch seamlessly. Brighton Ford will pick up your current lease and deliver your new Ford right to your doorstep. No hassle, no stress, just pure convenience from your first test drive to your next oil change. Brighton Ford delivers premium service every step of the way. They don't just want to sell you a car. They want to make owning a Ford from Brighton Ford an unforgettable experience. Call 1-800-NEW-FORD and get on board with Brighton Ford. We have Seth Fisher in the house. So, Seth, let's just start with getting your sort of broad brush reaction to the Michigan State game. Offense, I know you do the defense, but offense.
Yeah. Broad brush reaction is that I came away thinking Michigan State's pretty bad at football, but had a really good game plan for what they had. I thought their approach was correct. And that is wrong. Sam, that is so wrong that a Michigan guy who's looking at Michigan State is coming away being like, oh, that's an old bad Northwestern team or something, right? Oh, I respect you, but you're bad. That is the worst thing. If I'm a Michigan State fan after this game, not only did my team play terrible, but they played terrible and had opportunities to win, and played terrible and had opportunity to win and didn't embarrass themselves. What are we doing here, Michigan State? What are we doing here? Jonathan Smith, there were, I think, 28 times they cut away to Jonathan Smith just emoting. And I had to capture them and throw them all into one YouTube video because, man, it's just this is there's something wrong. Now, I've been asking for this for a long time. I wanted Michigan State to be a friendly rival because Michigan State people are a lot of my people, right? My nephew, my brother, my sister, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law. My dad went to State, although he stayed a Michigan fan his whole life. I love people of Michigan State, and I would love this to be just a lovely rivalry. But it was such a lovely rivalry. Everyone had a nice time. That was my takeaway from this game. That, oh boy, is this the opposite of what every Michigan State fan wants out of a Michigan State fan. We had a pleasant time. Michigan fans went up there. We tailgated. We saw each other's families. We stayed up all night and then beat the crap out of them in football. Michigan didn't play a great game. Bryce played terrible. I'm not even going to take that much away from him. I'm sure Brian's, trying to look at this being like, what do I do? It's true freshman. True freshmen normally don't play for this reason. He had a true freshman and rivalry game. Rosie had a good strategy for him, which is just kind of slant everything. And then they had only a couple big plays on on offense, right? Like State, there wasn't a whole lot that they could do. Childs, ugh, the guy's he's regressed.
Yeah,
Uh,
man, I was
yeah.
shocked.
Yeah.
I was shocked
Me too.
at how bad Aiden Childs was, considering he actually made some plays last year
Yeah.
against Michigan. And
Yeah,
so,
he had a lot of promise. Yeah. So their
He's
plan, I
made-
think, going in this game was throw it to Nick Marsh, right? That's their best player.
Mhm.
And immediately, I think the first 3 plays all go at Jair Hill because he's the guy covering Nick Marsh. And guess what? They get nothing out of it. You know, like one of them's like a drag. They have him coming all the way across, right? They give him all this opportunity to run away from him, like Ohio State did in 2018, right? And they get to the end of this whole long route, and everyone's over at the sideline. He throws it at Nick Marsh, and guess who has actually gotten there first? Jair Hill. Now, Hill can't catch the interception.
Right. Could have been interception.
He tracked that, and man, all the way across and that was just an announcement. Then they throw it downfield, and he's just step for step for him. And he's step for step for him and blanking him in a way that even if he's not looking for the ball, there's no way to catch it. And that was it. That was like, okay, pack it up. Because Nick Marsh is the one thing they had going for them in that offense, and Jair just shut that down. So I know he screwed up on they had the cover 2, and they they kind of didn't chuck the guy one time, and I gave him a -2 for that.
Yeah.
And I think people are remembering that play a lot. But I think that was the only real negative I had against Jair all game versus a lot of positives. So Rolder, I know there's some talk that he got hurt afterwards, but he had a game, man. I put a star on that guy now. And Jair had a game. The other guys, Houseman was good. Houseman's always been good. And then I had one more thing.
That's not the only time. The defense as a whole obviously played fairly well. That's not the only time they've had that issue where they don't get proper, they don't get the redirect in cover 2. That seems to be like a thing against a better team can be more costly.
I see it a lot more with the younger guys, right? There's another play in this game. There's a 2nd and 19. And it took me forever to diagnose what was going on with it. Because on 2nd and 19, it's not just one guy who screws up, right? There are supposed to be multiple ways to prevent them from getting 20 yards on 2nd and 19. And one of them is Zeke Berry is playing up. Now, Berry, very rarely, since he's moved to cornerback, he doesn't really play up on like a guy like Nick Marsh very often, right? He doesn't get a chuck off the line. He's playing cover 3, though. He's going to have to bail. He's supposed to stay on that guy until someone else takes him. So there was one problem there. But then I realized Troy Bowles is playing the curl flat next to him. And Bowles, if he would just back up 4 more yards, he'd be standing directly in the lane. And that's we have an old Ravens playbook that shows exactly how you're supposed to play that technique in this defense. And there's like a V. You're supposed to step back and then come down on your out. And Bowles is just going right after the out. And I see this in the young guys and the players who've had less than a year or two playing those positions. And it cracks more often just because they're playing up, because you take away opportunities to make mistakes when you play as aggressively as Michigan plays. And sometimes it's just that's the wink thing. That's the thing that's just like, these are college kids. You kind of have to give them some more space. So it was subtly mad at Wink, but not like a, oh my God, USC game mad at Wink game. I was just like, look, man, you got a lot of young players out there. You're going to have to back up a little bit and give them some time on 2nd and 19 at least.
Along these lines, you've got Sullivan injured. I don't know how bad that is, but I'm not counting on him this week at least. And you've got Bowles. Now, do you move Barham back around, or is Bowles going to get some playing time? I don't think Bowles had a great week. I'm not sure if he's ready.
He didn't have a great week, no.
Or not, but I mean, he's going to get a shot, I believe, this weekend.
And depth wise, and you got the luxury of Jay Sean being able to play there, and you got edges that are playing so much better. I mean, TJ Guy is Derek Moore goes without saying, but TJ Guy has since the Oklahoma game, or it was after Oklahoma. I guess the Central Michigan game was the game that they sat him down in.
Yeah.
Since then, he's played better football. I mean, that's not the way that you wanted to, not the way you want to get there, but he's a different dude, man. You see him being physical. Certainly the edge discipline of all the guys is there. You have the luxury, I think, if you want to play Jay Sean at linebacker of doing so. And Jay Sean, he's trying to play the technique. It's sadly has robbed him of some of his aggression. That's a good and bad thing. I mean, it's robbed him of some of his aggression, but it's robbed him of some of his aggression.
Well, I think it robs Michigan State of some of the things that they can do too. So it's when I'm looking at like what they're doing with Jay Sean when he's out there, they're chipping him every single time. They know that he's the big pass rush problem. TJ Guy, oh man. I mean, I don't understand why he was sat for CMU anyway, because he always grades out well to me. But he had one play, I think it might have been the roller sack early on, where they're looking down on Guy's side of the field. Guy's dropping. He chucks the wide receiver, and the wide receiver just falls to the ground. And then he gets on the other. So he takes over. They're playing high-low, and he takes both of them because one guy's just, he threw the guy on the ground basically, just on his chuck, and then goes and covers the other dude. And I mean, that's what you get from Guy. It is so weird that he's playing less than Cam Brandt, because Cam Brandt's been grading out really bad to me, and it's not like. I don't want to get down on a kid. I'm more down on what's going on with the rotations. Why is one guy getting out? I understand they have heavy and open, and they kind of use them positions differently. And Barham kind of moved over to that open position. But Guy can play both. Guy can do both of those, and I would like to see a lot more of him regardless. Now, if you're going to have to move Barham back to linebacker, doesn't really change anything for Cam Brandt. I think that they wanted to get Nate Marshall, kind of involved more, and then he blew an edge. So it's like you can see when I'm like, okay, let's get this guy going. No, pull him back. That's not happening yet. So yeah, I see it.
Yep, young guy.
Yep. Yeah. I wonder how you thought of what you thought, Seth, of the defensive tackle play. I mean, I have, looking at the big picture, not just this year, but next year, Michigan should have a kick-ass offense, I think. And the back part of the defense should be pretty good. But I'm wondering about defensive tackles and if they've developed any depth there that, that's.
I mean, depth is the one thing in defensive tackle there's no problem with. They're so deep at defensive tackle that we don't know about we don't even know how far the depth goes.
Okay.
And they run them like hockey lines. It's really weird. There'll be two plays, and then as soon as they get an opportunity, they'll switch them out. Which I wonder if that was kind of what Esposito used to do at Western, because the guys that you can get at Western are just the same version of the same guy again and again. And these are very different guys. And it's another one of those situations where, the more you have Benny and Pierce out there, now Pierce has been hurt, so I understand limiting him. The more you have Benny out there, it's just a big difference between him and the other guys. Nobody here is Mason Graham or Kenneth Grant.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are just fine. And they kind of shifted their the way they've been playing things. They're putting more on the defensive tackles, at least in this game, to just hold up to doubles, do that Mozzie Smith thing. I think Damon Payne did a really good job of that, and he got more snaps than anybody. He's just a guy, right? Payne's not. I don't think he's going to go to the NFL. I don't think he's a great player, but he can hold up. He's a guy, and when you have him just doing his job, that means the linebackers can play fast and shoot into gaps, and you get great linebacker play. So I think they're fine at that. Trey Williams, every once in a while, you just get that flash of the 5-star. Most of the time, he's the same as Payne. He's just kind of there, and that's fine. He's just kind of there. But every once in a while, he'll like, whoa, I remember that guy was a 5-star, right? He shoot, I think it was a goal line play.
What about, Etta? I mean, what did you see from him this week? I mean, he was a pretty
small,
major recruit.
Yeah.
Although he was on the edge.
He was a long development process, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that he's still on that development train. He's I think a redshirt sophomore, but I would look at him almost as a redshirt freshman. This game was fine for him. He actually graded out really well in this game because Michigan State sucks. So they could push him around. The problem with Etta out there is that like he gets blown out by doubles. So you can't use him as that, as a pure defensive tackle that much. I like him actually better than I like Brandt in that pass rush defensive tackle role because he actually can get pressure a couple times, and Brandt is a little small for that job. So I like Etta in certain roles. I think they have a job called end that used to be Chris Jenkins' job. I think he's ideal fit for that in the future. Etta just needs to get stronger, get a little older, but certainly a player and made some plays in this game. It's just, they have so many of these guys, right? So many tackles. Ike Awuna actually flashed a little bit when he got on the field. It was, and they're not even playing him because they got so many other dudes. It's just the weird thing is they rotate them so darn fast. It's hard for anybody to kind of get a feel for who's across from them and how to play them and whatnot. And I get to the end of the game, it's like Benny has a really good score for the number of snaps that he's been on the field, but he's been on the field just as much as Damon Payne.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like Trey Pierce, but he's been a little banged up, which is unfortunate. This is a game. This is a game though where you hope that the reserves can show well and allow that the guys who are banged up to get that rest and you don't miss them too much. And then obviously you got a bye coming up, and so that can be used to heal up. And you'll be just fine coming up. So,
this is like a former USC OC, right? So they, as far as Purdue's concerned, please don't do the USC thing. Get a lot of young players. Let's just back off, go vanilla. I don't want to see anything interesting this week.
I suspect we're going to see a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, I'm going to guess it's going to be quite different.
I bet you that they won't overcomplicate.
Okay,
but in the passing game, I bet you see them work that passing game against Purdue. But that's going to do it for us here on the roundtable and on the Michigan Insider. Let's be generous going to the break. Caller number 7 is 734-998-1050. You'll join us inside the Bud Light Victor's Lounge for the Chapel on Site Fueling Countdown to Kickoff. Caller number 7 is 734-998-1050. We'll see you tomorrow here on the Michigan Insider on the Big 1050 WTK online.